That, of course, is not the only shooting to have happened over this past week. That's not the only shooting to get national attention. There was another one, which is probably the biggest story right now. 84-year-old man shoots 16-year-old kid for ringing the wrong doorbell. Sure, you guys have all heard about this. So what the hell's going on in this case, right? This is a kid named, actually Ralph Yari is his name, 16-year-old kid. It's about 10:30 at night. He's going out to pick up his two siblings, right? He goes to the wrong house. This is in Missouri. Goes to the wrong house and rings the doorbell. And he's sitting there waiting, and then the guy on the other side opens up the doorbell. It's an 82-year-old man named Andrew Lester. And Andrew Lester sees a 16-year-old kid in front of him and shoots him twice through the storm door. So he didn't even open the door all the way. He had like those, those security door kind of things. Like it's like a glass sort of storm door, right? Shoots him through that twice, right? Hits him in the head and then again in his arm, right? According to Yari, as soon as what happened is that he just rang the doorbell, waited for a few seconds. Guy opens the door, doesn't say anything, and then just shot him, after which he immediately fell on the ground. So that's and then, thankfully, Yari doesn't die, but manages to crawl away and get some help, goes to the hospital, and managed to survive. So thankfully he didn't kill him. But here's the thing about this, right? This guy Lester, it took 4 days for them to charge him and arrest him. So the cops show up, they bring him in, and then they let him go. The same night, he goes home and then he just goes to sleep in his own bed like nothing ever happened. You just shot somebody, shot a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid. Yeah, it's all right. Go on home, Lester. Everything's cool. Yeah, we'll be in touch. This, of course, has led to protests and shit because, imagine so Andrew Yari, of course, was black and Andrew Lester was white. So imagine that was the other way around. Do you really think that if Lester was black and Yari was white, that they would have let him go home that night, that they wouldn't have arrested him? Right? Even if he is 84 years old. Do you think they would have just let him go home? Fuck no. What if even if he just shot a white kid instead? Do you think they would have let him go home? Hell no, they wouldn't have let him go home. Okay? Hell no. So that's, and it took 4 days. And people, so people were protesting outside of this guy's house going, why is this shit taking so long? Like, why is he fucking free? He shot him. The kid, we know that he shot him. Why is he just chilling? I mean, what else do you fucking need in your investigation there, man? Right? Why is this guy not fucking in prison? Which is fucking horseshit, right? The thing is, here's Lester. Lester said he was scared for his life because he was old and unable to physically defend himself. Here's the thing, that the kid didn't try to make any attempt to go into his house. All he did was ring his doorbell. He shot him through the door. So if you have some kind of story, if you want to make up some story saying like, hey, he was trying to break in or something, did he even open the storm door? Like, no. Shot him through the fucking door. So it's like, don't give me this shit. I mean, like, why would he be afraid? Just opening the door and seeing a black kid there makes you instantly afraid? Is that what it is? Are we supposed to believe that? Here's the thing about this, right? So, first off, Missouri has a stand your ground law. In fact, here's the link to it. I'll put it down in the thing so that you guys can follow along with this too. Because there is some concern that this guy may actually get off. There's the link to the stand your ground thing. There is some concern that this guy may actually get off because the Missouri stand your ground actually supports what he did. Specifically this section here. Let me go ahead and open this for you guys. Let me turn on my window here. Okay, specifically Section 3. Right, so this is the Missouri Stand Your Ground law, right, the relevant parts of it. Section 3. Such force is used against a person who unlawfully enters, remains after unlawfully entering, or attempts to unlawfully enter private property that is owned or leased by an individual or is occupied by an individual who has been given specific authority by the property owner to occupy the property, claiming a justification of using protective force under this section. A person does not have a duty to retreat from a dwelling, residence, or vehicle where the person is not unlawfully entering or unlawfully remaining, from private property that is owned or leased by such individual, or if the person is in any other location such person has a right to be. So if you're in your house, you don't have a duty to retreat. So all he's got to do, this guy Lester, right, is say, hey, let me go ahead and let's turn that off for now. All he's got to do is say, hey, the kid was trying to kick down my door. I didn't know who he was. I was afraid. I'm an old, frail, fucking dried up, old man and shit. So I shot first because I was afraid for my life. That's all he has to do. And here's the thing, it would have worked if he would have killed him, right? If he would have actually killed Andrew Yari, he'd probably get off scot-free. Because Yari wouldn't have, we wouldn't know his side of the story, right? Kind of reminds me of what happened with Trayvon Martin. That's the thing. I mean, if you remember Trayvon Martin, right, why did everybody get so angry at Trayvon Martin? And but at that case, not at Trayvon Martin, but why did everybody get so angry about what happened with that case, right? It wasn't because a white person shot a black person, right? The reason why people got angry is because Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin and then didn't get arrested. That's why people were angry, right? He shot him, blows this kid away, kills him, then the cops just let him go. And that was what pissed everybody off. It's like, well, no, arrest this fucking guy. Even if, arrest him and then you don't have to charge him. If you find out, okay, well, we don't have enough to charge him, then you drop the charges. Because if it was the other way around, if a black person shot a white person and claimed self-defense, you know goddamn well that the cops aren't going to just let him go. Right? That's what pissed people off about the Trayvon Martin case. That's what that rage, that's where the fucking rage came from. And that's why it was doubly fucking ridiculous when it's like, oh, well, then he's innocent, blah, 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 right? Here's the other thing, right? We don't have Trayvon Martin's side of the story. All we have is what Zimmerman says, and then there's a recording where it's like someone's yelling for help. You don't know who it is. Was it Zimmerman yelling? Was it Trayvon Martin yelling? We don't know Martin's side of the story, right? Martin was just walking home, had some Skittles, had some iced tea. Guy with a gun shows up, starts fucking with him. Right, in a place where he was allowed, where he lived in that neighborhood. He was allowed to be there. Of course, we don't really know what happened. We don't know how he acted. Did he attack Zimmerman? We don't know. All we have is Zimmerman's word for it. That's the fucking problem with the stand your law shit, your ground shit. It benefits you if you're in a stand your ground case. It benefits you if you actually kill the person. Because then they have to just go off of your side of the story, unless there's witnesses, unless there's a video or something. In the case of the Trayvon Martin case, in the case of this case, there were witnesses. People saw it, right? And the kid lived. So now the kid gets to say what fucking happened. It's like, no, I didn't try to kick in his door. No, I didn't do any shit like that. I was just minding my business. I went to the wrong house, and this guy fucking just shot me immediately. So according to this guy's grandson, this guy Andrew Lester has a grandson, did an interview on Fox News, and it was on CNN, did an interview on CNN. He's essentially just said that he doesn't believe that his grandfather was racist, but he did say that he is basically conservative, super conservative, and that he's not racist per se, but he's racist in that sort of standard Republican way that all Republicans are racist, because the guy apparently is super into conservative media. The Fox News is the OANN kind of things. Apparently, the guy's also like into like sort of QAnon level conspiracy theories. Has made comments about immigrants and stuff like that. Got a quote there from his grandson. I believe there may have been some positions that he's held that have been bigoted or sort of disparaging. But it's stock Fox News conservative American stuff. It's anybody who gets an abortion is a murderer, and fatherless black families are the reason why crime exists in this country. It's stuff everybody's heard at the Thanksgiving table for every year. So, and then apparently the guy was also an election denier and was into things like COVID conspiracies, that kind of thing. So, the thing about that, folks, is that there are millions and millions and millions of people out there that have that same attitude. And these are people that you wouldn't call white supremacists. You wouldn't call them Nazis, right? Because they're not. They may even think in their own heads that they're not racist people. They may even believe that, you know, hey, I love everybody regardless of skin color. But it's just their positions, their super conservative positions on certain things have an overtly racist tint, right? And they may think in their heads like, yeah, I like everyone, and I believe, you know, skin color. I don't care about skin color, blah blah blah. But all those welfare queens out there are ruining, you know, whatever, or all the immigrants are stealing my job, stuff like that kind of thing. Where it's like they're not racist, but their positions on stuff are like colored by conservative pundits and media, and are sort of influenced by right-wing influencers like Tucker Carlson, stuff like that. And they may even find themselves agreeing with certain things, like, say, Great Replacement kind of stuff, because they heard Tucker Carlson talking about it. And they might even not even believe that shit. They might even have, like, black friends and stuff and think that makes them not racist. It's like, there are millions and millions of people out there who have just been sort of brainwashed by conservative politics. But these aren't people that you would see walking around carrying a burning cross with a sheet, right? Wearing a sheet, or like, you know, hanging out at a fucking Proud Boys rally or something. These aren't people that would be doing that. These are people that would say, "Hey, I stand against those other Nazis and shit like that. I don't believe in that kind of thing." But then they might repeat some shit that they heard on Tucker Carlson, which is like essentially disguised Great Replacement theory stuff. See what I mean by that? And that's the scary thing, folks. It's like that's the conservative fear machine, conservative media, which just scares the shit out of people and makes them think that every single person of color is a criminal who's out there to like steal your job and rape your baby, right? And shoot your toddler in the face or whatever, and that kind of thing. That because they've been fed this diet of conservative bullshit for years and years and years, and that's kind of what it looks like happened to this Andrew Lester guy. So yeah, sad stuff, man. How, of course, is the right wing framing this? Of course, well, they're doing exactly what you would think they're doing. Here's a guy. This is, let me go ahead and turn on my laptop here. This is DC Drano, who is a Fox News figure. This is what he tweeted out. This is Andrew Lester, the 84-year-old accused of a racially biased crime after he wounded a nearly 6-foot-tall teenager allegedly attempting to enter his home. The media loves this case because they can drive a racially divisive narrative, but I have a feeling they may regret defaming him. See how he described that? This guy, DC Drano here. See how he described that? Nearly 6-foot-tall teenager attempting to enter his home. That's how he said that, right? The guy Yari, right? Andrew Yari, or not Andrew. What the fuck is it? Sorry, I keep mixing their names up here, right? Andrew Lester is the 84-year-old guy. Ralph Yari is the kid. The 16-year-old kid. Ralph Yari is 5'8". Okay. 5'8". That's not 6 feet tall. That's shorter than me, for fuck's sake. And I'm not a tall guy at all. I'm 5'9", right? He's 5'8". He's not nearly 6 feet tall, and he didn't attempt to enter his home. That makes it sound like it places the blame on the kid, places the blame on the teenager. Oh, this fucking big scary black kid is trying to bust into this guy's house, and so he shot him. That's bullshit. See how they see the it's all in the framing. Technically, nothing what this guy's saying isn't true. I mean, I guess you could say characterizing the kid Yari as being nearly 6 feet tall is not true. You could say that, right? But it's all in the framing. So somebody could read this and be like, "Oh, well, that guy was completely justified. Oh, a 6 foot tall black kid tried to break into my house. I'll shoot him too." Right? But that's not what happened. That's not even close to what fucking happened. Right? And so you could see how that, conservative media, that's what they do. They scare you. Their entire business model revolves around them scaring you. So that, because they've decided that it's easier to get those outrage clicks. It's easier to get those fear clicks. It's easier to get engagement with, by scaring people, by making them angry, making them afraid. It's easier to do that and get engagement that way rather than telling the actual truth. So you got to remember, especially Fox, OAN, these are not news, OANN, right? The other one, there's another one called Right News or something. These are not news sources. You're not getting the actual truth from these places. I mean, if there's anything, that big fucking lawsuit that Fox just lost, let's go ahead and close this shit. We don't need this right now. I'm sure you all heard about that huge lawsuit against Dominion that Fox just settled out of court with, right? Even for like $785 million. Let's just round that up to 800 million, right? And then of course they're going to turn out and say, well, we're not admitting any fault. Yeah, you don't pay $800 million without being at fault. Don't give me this shit. All right, if you weren't at fault, you would have gone to trial and tried to prove that you weren't at fault. You knew that you were at fucking fault. You knew that you were telling lies, saying shit that you knew wasn't true, because if you weren't, you wouldn't have settled out of court. Don't give me this fucking shit. I mean, if anything, and it's like, goddamn, but people are still just gonna, their viewers are just gonna ignore that. They're just gonna completely blissfully ignore it. Oh, it's all fake news. It's all a conspiracy by the fucking, commies or whatever. They're gonna continue to believe in this shit, and then crap like this happens. They're gonna be scared every fucking night, going to bed afraid that the wokers, right, and BLM and stuff are coming for their children. And then they'll just shoot the first black kid they see who fucking rings the wrong doorbell. Like I said, other countries don't have this problem. Why? How come we're the only place in the world where this shit happens, right? People aren't blowing each other away for no reason in Japan for ringing the wrong doorbell. Doesn't fucking happen there, right? People aren't shooting each other for driving up the wrong driveway in England, in Scotland, in Scandinavia. I mean, that shit probably doesn't even really happen in other, like Mexico, for fuck's sake. Mexico has tons of gun violence, right? There's cartels, drug cartels, all this other shit. But they don't have mass shootings in Mexico. Not really, not to the same extent that we have. Random fucking crazy people don't just show up at a mall and start blowing people away for no reason in Mexico. Yeah, there's crime there. There's lots of crime. Crime is really bad in Mexico, right? But kids aren't showing up to fucking, like, grade schools and stuff and just blowing away their classmates. This is a uniquely American phenomenon. This casual gun violence like this is uniquely American. Another example. 2 days after Andrew Lester shoots Ralph Yari for ringing his doorbell. In upstate New York, a 22-year-old girl was shot for accidentally driving up the wrong driveway. What happened here? Right? So this is in Hebron, which is apparently 50 miles north of Albany. I've never been to New York, so I don't really know where these places are, but apparently this is a sort of rural New York. This is not like where the city is, where New York City is, anything like that. This is like farmland and stuff, apparently. And this girl, her name was Kaylin Gillis. She was with a group of friends, and they were driving around looking for a party. Apparently, this area doesn't have very good cell coverage, so they weren't able to rely on maps or anything like that. Google Maps. They were just sort of driving around looking for this address, and they went up the wrong avenue. They went up the wrong driveway. And apparently, this guy's driveway, his name is Kevin Monahan. He's 65 years old. Apparently, really, really, really does not like trespassers. And it had big signs saying no trespassing. Stuff like that, right? But they were lost. So they drove up. They went up this driveway. They realized they were at the wrong place, right? Group of kids. So they turn around. And this guy Monahan opens fire from his porch as they're driving away. Fires twice. One of the bullets kills Kaylin Gillis. Dead. Her crime, driving up the wrong goddamn driveway. Alright. So, apparently, according to this dude's lawyer, Kevin Monahan, according to his lawyer, he was, of course, afraid for his life. I don't understand how that should happen, because here's the thing. No one got out of their car. No one interacted with him in any way. They drove up. They looked at his address. They saw it was the wrong address. They turned around. They drove away. But according to him and his lawyer, he said he saw a caravan of cars, because there were 2 cars and a motorcycle, approaching at rapid speed in the middle of the night. It was like 10 o'clock, something like that. They're looking for a party. They're college kids going out to party, right? And, he saw a caravan of several cars and a motorcycle driving up his driveway at a rapid speed. And, of course, that lends itself to malice. So then he got super afraid and ran out with his gun. And then as they're leaving, decides to shoot at them. Doesn't shoot at them as they're sitting there in front of his house looking at his address. Doesn't shoot at them as they're anything like that. Shoots at them as they're driving away. So, yeah, this fucking guy's going to prison. Okay, because, how the fuck are you going to be afraid for your life when they're leaving? When nobody has even gotten out of their car to talk to you? There was no confrontation. It's not like they drove up and started fucking with him. It's not like they vandalized anything on his property. It's not like they did anything wrong at all. They just they looked at his address. And then they left. And they turned around, and the girl, Kaylin Gillis, was in the last car that was driving away, and the guy shot after them, killed them. Apparently, this guy Monahan has a reputation for being a fucking asshole. Described as hot-tempered and confrontational. Apparently caused a scene recently at a DMV office, was pissed off because he had to show up in person to the DMV. So, yeah, this is sort of a male Karen or whatever, right? That's the kind of guy we're dealing with, just a total fucking douchebag to begin with. And also was increasingly over the years really, really, really hated when people accidentally drove down his driveway. Well, gee, I sympathize, buddy, but how about you fucking get over it? If you don't like people driving down your driveway, why don't you put a gate? How about that? How about you get up off your lazy fucking ass? Put a gate in front of your driveway. That way people won't drive up it, right? That way you won't have to murder people for driving up your driveway without your permission. Like, what kind of shit is this? Like, this is the only country where this happens. Do people blow each other away in fucking, Australia for driving up the wrong fucking driveway? No. Right? Does that happen in Canada? If you're in Canada and there's a big sign, if I drive up your driveway, you're allowed to just shoot me? Do I have the expectation that you'll blow me away? No. Why is this the only country where this shit happens? Right? If I was in fucking, Kenya, would that happen to me? Probably not. If I just accidentally went on someone's land and then apologized, and then left. Like, no, there's no place in the world, right, where you would expect this to happen. That, like, no place in the world that isn't like an active fucking war zone. You know, maybe if you're in like fucking, I don't know, Somalia or something, or Beirut or some shit like that, right? You know, maybe you're in Colombia and you like accidentally drove up a fucking like drug dealer cartel's fucking driveway by accident and they thought you were the cops or whatever. You know, maybe that would fucking happen, but in any other peaceful place, even in places where they allow guns, does shit like this happen? Like, no, right? This is why in Japan, 2 people get killed every year by firearms. Or in England, you know, something like 87 people will get killed by firearms. And then in the United States, 42,000 people will get killed by firearms. And I'm not making those numbers up. The average over the last 5 years is like 42,000. Like if you include, like that's what it is in the United States. It's like Japan 2, the United States 42,000. Right? It's unbelievable. Why does this, you know, there are other countries on Earth that allow you to have guns, believe it or not. You can have guns in Australia. You can have guns in Canada. You can have guns in Venezuela, right? Fuck, people open carry in Venezuela all the time, right? They don't have these problems. Every single one of them, even the ones that have a lot of gun violence, like there's exactly like 2 countries on Earth where more people are killed by firearms, right, than the United States. And it's like Brazil and like fucking, I can't remember the other. It's like Brazil and like Nicaragua. Like those are the 2, something like that. Very few. There may be a few more. I'm just going off the top of my head here. I know that Brazil is actually number 1 for gun deaths, right? You know, so it's like, okay, we're not the top fucking thing. You know, we're not the top country on Earth where people get blown away for no fucking goddamn reason. But still, we're like number 3. Like, that's not a position to be proud of. That is very bad. You know, every other, like, Western, like, you know, developed nation doesn't have this problem. This is unique to the United States, right? Unique to the United States. You don't have to worry about getting blown away for dumb fucking reasons anywhere else. Nowhere in Europe. Nowhere in fucking, like, in Japan. In Southeast Asia. It's generally safer. It's safer. Like, there's less gun violence per capita in fucking Thailand and Cambodia, right, than there is in the United States, for fuck's sake. Like, I mean, and these are not places that are like, you know, these are places where people live in, like, the jungle and fucking, you know, extreme poverty in Thailand and Cambodia and stuff like that, right? These are places where people live for $2 a day. But we, like, you know, and there's less gun violence in those countries. There may be other forms of violence that are higher. But less people killed by firearms in those countries than the United States. Like, this is the fucking country we live in. Why are people proud of this shit? What are we going to do about it? For crying out loud. Our country is fucked up, folks. Absolutely fucking, like, our priorities are wrong. Okay? There are other rights which are more important than the right to carry a firearm so that you can kill people for shoplifting or for crime or for, like, ringing your doorbell. For going up the wrong driveway. There's other right, you know. What about your right to fucking life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What about that? Huh? I don't know. America is fucked up. Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.